Hello friends, today we're going to discuss about principles of neuronal plasticity. I'm Dr. Suresh Badadmat, Professor of Psychiatry, working at National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, Bangalore. In this video, I'll be discussing about neuronal plasticity, what are the different types of them, and also the principles behind neuronal plasticity. Every person who is working in the area of rehabilitation should know the fundamentals which govern this neuronal plasticity. Then you'll be able to plan the rehabilitation in your patients. Here I'll be focusing more on neuronal plasticity. Neurons in human brain. It is the fundamental unit of brain. The number of neurons in the brain is somewhere around 80 to 90 billion neurons in the brain. 1 billion is equal to 100 crore, my dear friends. If you want to express in crores, it is 8,000 to 9,000 crore neurons, my dear friends. And each neuron will have 100 to thousands of synaptic connections with other neurons. That means a single neuron can form thousands of synaptic connections. So you have 80 to 90 billions of neurons into thousands of synaptic connections. These are neurons, but there are supportive cells called as glial cells in the human brain, which is almost equivalent to neurons. They are also in 80 to 90 billion, my dear friends. Glial cells are those cells, invariably they are astrocytes, oligodendrocytes, microglia, and ependymal cells. What are the functions of these glial cells? These are basically structural. They also help in neuronal development, synaptic regulation, metabolism, provide nutrism, that means provide nutrition, removing the waste materials from the brain, immune and defense mechanism, myelination, homeostasis, and various other responsible activities. That means in brain, we have neuron and glial cells. We knew glial cells do proliferate. At the same time, they are regenerative. But does the neuron regenerate was the question. For many decades, we thought that the neurons do not regenerate. But in fact, neurons do form to some extent the regeneration at the sites called as synapse, axons, new connections are known to occur. That is called as neuronal plasticity. Now let's understand the term neuronal plasticity. Plasticity means the quality of being soft enough to be changed into a new shape. The ability of a material or a system to change the form, structure, or function in response to external influences or stimuli. It describes the capacity for modification or adaptation. That means, in simple term, if you want to use neuronal plasticity means whether the neuron has the capacity to modify or adapt to the external stimuli, experiences, or else any adaptation when it is required. Neuronal plasticity is also called as neuroplasticity, refers to the brain's ability to change and adapt throughout an individual's life in response to various experiences, learning, and environmental factors. It also refers to the capacity of the nervous system to modify itself functionally and structurally in response to experiences and injury. Further, you can also easily understand the neuronal plasticity means it is the ability of the nervous system to change its activity in response to intrinsic or extrinsic stimuli by reorganizing itself, its structure, function, or connections. This fundamental property of the brain, that is basically neuron, to allow itself to reorganize its structure, function, and connectivity, and plays a crucial learning in learning, memory, formation, and recovery from the brain injury. So, my dear friends, that means neuron do regrow, form new connections in our brain. So, neuronal connections and pathways are frequently used or stimulated tend to be strengthened, while those which are rarely activated may weaken or even may be eliminated. That means either you use your neuron or it will perish. That means use or perish is a simple term. In rehabilitation, especially neuronal rehabilitation or else brain rehabilitation, you can see before and after. Whenever before the rehabilitation, the stimuli are less, the chemical changes are less. That is called as chemical neuronal plasticity. That means neurochemicals, that is hormonal changes or increase in hormone or decrease in neurohormone can be seen here. You can see the more the stimuli, the more the connection, and also the more the chemicals. Structural changes are also known to occur. That is called as structural neuronal plasticity. Further, the function. If the some area of the brain gets damaged or injured or assaulted, the corresponding part of the brain on the other hemisphere or else the neighboring hemisphere will take over that function. That means there is a functional change or compensatory mechanism takes over. That is neuronal rehabilitation, my dear friends. One of the important article which was published in 2018 by Jenin and his colleagues, you can see there are four important neuronal plasticity. The neuronal plasticity occurring at the level of molecular, that is, at the level of BDNF, my dear friends, brain derived neurotropic factors or vascular endothelial growth factors, or sometimes in simple term it is called as growth factors. And you can see these are the important molecular changes or hormonal changes or interleukins, various changes which occur with regard to stimuli, including insulin like growth factor. Further, at the cellular level, there may be gliogenesis, neurogenesis, synaptogenesis, or else even angiogenesis. That means more vascularization also known to occur. This leads to structural and functional change. That means increased white matter volume, gray matter volume, receptor activity increases, neural activity increases, cerebral blood flow increases, and finally, that leads to behavioral improvement or else targeted improvement is known to occur. That is, my dear friends, molecular neuronal plasticity, cellular, structural, functional, many a time it is called as neurophysical or neurophysiological, or else receptor level neuronal plasticity or neurohormonal plasticity has been considered. That means various terms have been used. But one need to understand neurorehabilitation works, my dear friends. That means you need to give time and also you need to provide constant rehabilitation. Let's discuss those important principles of neuronal plasticity. Those important points, what I'm going to discuss, are the fundamentals for neurorehabilitation. What I am discussing is being published in Klein and John's colleagues who had played an important role in publication called as Principles of Experience Dependent Neural Plasticity, Implications for Rehabilitation After Brain Damage. This was published in 2008 in Journal of Speech, Language and Hearing Research. According to me, this is one of the landmark article, my dear friends. Let's understand the first principle. Use it or lose it. That means the more you use your brain, it will survive and it will grow. If you do not use your brain, it will lose it. What does it mean? The more the cognitive activity, such as reading, maybe writing, thinking, and also many a time doing various other challenging cognitive tasks, improves the brain function, my dear friend. If you do not use your brain, there is high possibility cognitive decline will occur. Second one, use it and improve it. As I mentioned, it is similar to the earlier one. The more you learn, the more you put your brain to use, it will improve. Repeated exposure or practices is crucial for consolidating and strengthening the neural connection. The more frequently a particular neural pathway is activated, the more likely it is going to be efficient and robust. Here, practice makes human perfect. Repetition helps to reinforce learning and facilitates the formation of long term memory, my dear friends. That you need to understand. Hence, in rehabilitation, more the patient practices, the neuronal connection improves. Now, the third one is repetition. It is also called as Hebbian plasticity. When two neurons are repeatedly activated at the same time, the synapse connecting them becomes stronger. That is depicted in this figure, my dear friends. That means it also says that the nerve cells that fire together will wire together. That means if there is a repeated cells, neuronal cells are firing over a period of time, there will be more connections formed, more dendritic spines, more synaptic connections, and the signal transduction becomes strengthened, my dear friends. Hence, it is called as the cells which fire together, wire together. That is Hebbian plasticity, my dear friends. So, you need to understand the more a person practices, especially with regard to learning, memory, it becomes consolidated and stronger. The next fourth principle is specificity. Different experiences and learning activities can produce distinct pattern of neuronal plasticity. That means if you want to teach a person a specific skill, that means a specific practice has to be done. That means neuronal changes are often specific to particular skills or information being acquired. That means you need to know what skills need to be trained in neuro rehab, and it will be very specific to that. Intensity. The intensity of stimulation or training can also affect the induction of neuronal plasticity. More the number of hours of training, more hours of training, more the intensity of training, the brain connection becomes stronger and the outcome will be better. The timing matters. That means during certain critical period, it may be early childhood, immediately after the insult, the rehabilitation should be started. The earlier is the better. The more you delay, the prognosis is guarded. That means the improvement will be less. That means timing affects the magnitude and the efficiency of plasticity, my dear friends. That means rehabilitation should be started at the earliest. If there is an injury to the brain, the earlier the rehabilitation, better is the outcome. That means you should not wait for rehabilitation. When the patient is admitted inside the ward, when he is in ICU, when our signs of recovery is seen, rehabilitation should be initiated at the earliest. Now the question is, does it means if you delay maybe 3 months, 6 months, should we give rehabilitation or not? Let's understand, plasticity is across the lifespan. Although the maximum benefit will be seen at the earliest, but if there is a delay in neuro rehabilitation, don't deny the rehabilitation. Although sometimes there may be delay because for the access for rehabilitation, please don't deny them whatever the rehabilitation they can get. Neuronal plasticity is not limited to only early phase, but also in the delayed phase, rehabilitation occurs. However, age do matters. In children, the neurorehabilitation works very well. Whereas in elderly or geriatric population, the same rehabilitation as the summation or the quantity required, the number of days and the number of rehabilitation sessions required is more when compared to children. Compensatory changes. The brain has the remarkable ability to reorganize, rewire, and compensate itself following an injury or insult to the brain. This principle is particularly evident in case of brain damage or sensory loss, where other parts of the brain may take over the functions of the damaged region through a process known as cortical remapping. Imagine if there is a part of the brain gets injured, the neighboring area or the reciprocal place of the other hemisphere may take over and a compensatory changes may occur or cortical remapping may occur and the rehabilitation of the person will definitely occur. The next one is transference, learning induced. That means learning new skills, acquiring new knowledge, experiencing new information can result in structural and functional changes in the brain, my dear friends. That means just because one person is old should not stop learning. The elderly population need to read newspapers, various articles, magazine, and whatever best learning methodology they can learn. That means you need to facilitate the learning that will keep their brain health healthy and the cognitive degeneration will be less, my dear friends. This new learning will cause more new synapses, more neuronal connections, and of course, those learning will keep neuron healthy by forming more memory formations. Environmental enrichment. A stimulating and enriched environment promotes neuronal plasticity, my dear friends. Exposure to sensory, cognitive, affective, and social experiences can lead to increased synaptic connection, enhanced neuronal function, and improved learning abilities. Many times, it has been said that whenever a person is in a happy mood, the learning occurs very fast. That means many a time our learning also is dependent upon our mood or affect. If you are depressed, the learning will become very, very slow and difficult. If a person is happy and also he is jovial during that period, the learning will be very, very intense and also will be consolidated very fast. On the other hand, a deprived or a impoverished environment may have a detrimental effect on the brain, development, and plasticity. And finally, the 10th, my dear friend, interference. Plasticity in response to one experience can interfere with the acquisition of other behavior. Interference refers to the ability of the plasticity within a given neural circuit to impede the induction of new or expression of exciting plasticity within the same circuit. This in turn can impair learning. And sometimes the interference of one connection may lead to interference of learning and neuronal plasticity, my dear friends. To conclude, the principles of neuronal plasticity refers to the fundamental concepts that govern the ability of the brain's neuron to change and to adapt in response to various experiences and stimuli. Neuronal plasticity also refers for the neurons to rewire, reorganize, and cortical remapping so that whenever there is an injury occurs, the rehabilitation also follows. But however, the effort of the person and also proper guidance and rehabilitation is essential. To conclude, the 10 important neuronal plasticity principles are: use it or lose it, use it and improve it, specificity, repetition, interference, age matters, intensity, compensatory change, time, and transference, my dear friends. Thank you very much for giving your valuable time. Stay safe.